All right, everyone. Friedemann from Holistic Songwriting. How are you guys doing? Hopefully good. Well, great. Anyways, let's start this live chat. And already fair warning, this is like slowest laptop that I have, or the slowest computer that I have, so this is gonna be painful. Live! He said, and everything went smoothly, swimmingly fine. Weird. Usually it takes like, did you see the couple last live Q&As that I did where it was like, and then like when it goes really fast and stuff? That was my computer. And I thought it was only my computer, but no, that went live and that was embarrassing. So, how are you guys doing? Sayonara. Hopefully you were all doing mighty fine. Before we start, I thought I'd remind you all that these live Q&As are not just for you guys, but for everyone who watches these after the fact. So, if you're watching this after the fact, if you're watching this after this has gone live, then I do beg you one small favor. Please do note the different times that these questions come on and leave a comment with all the different timestamps so that if someone is looking for a particular question, they can just browse through those questions really quickly and find the right one. That would be super, super sweet. Please do that. It would, save me a lot of time because I really don't have the time to like rewatch all of my old live Q&As. But if you do rewatch some of my old live Q&As, that would be the sweetest thing of you if you could do that for me. That would be coolest thing. All right. It was slow. All right. Totally Overrated is already here. We have a couple of people here in the chat. Do we? How many people are online? 8 people. All right. That's pretty good. Where are you guys all from? A little chit chat before we start the actual show. So yeah, the timestamps would be really sweet if someone could take care of that for this show. It's probably not possible while this is live because you can't actually see the times. But yeah, after the fact would be really sweet. Also, I have been working like a crazy person on this. This is the addiction industry. I don't want to show you quite yet what is inside of this. This is the board game that I've been working on for a songwriting board game, for holistic songwriting that includes a lot of the principles from holistic songwriting into a board game that is, I think, fun to play. This is version 9, so I hope it is fun. This is the first game where I'm really excited about, and I'm playtesting this currently, so hopefully soon you're going to get some updates on this, but this is turning out, I think, really well. I think so. I mean, I'm the creator, so who am I to say, but I think this is the first proper version that I'm really proud of. I think it's a really interesting game, and I like how it incorporates all the stuff that I'm teaching on this platform into a board game. I think it's a really weird and cool kind of thing. So I'm super proud of it, and I'm excited, so excited to share it with you guys. And hopefully we can do like a writer's retreat someday, and I can play it with you guys in person. That would be the coolest thing ever. That's actually like my biggest motivator at this point, just being able to play it with you guys in person. Secret white box. It's not empty. Can you hear that? That's the sound of surprise. Sacramento. Hello from Argentina. Syria. Wow. Cool. All right. All around the world. Around the world, around the world. That was me singing terribly. All right. Man, this scroll bar here is terrible. Okay. So, I think we're ready, guys. If you have any questions, shoot. I just wanted to get your mouths all watery for what's about to come, hopefully this year, maybe next year, in the board game realm. Because I know I've been talking about it a lot, and yeah, so this is version 9 completely separate games. So I think I finally struck something. I don't know if it's gold yet. It's definitely going to be a little bit more work, not just a little bit, a lot more work, but I think I finally have a game that actually works and that is playable and that is fun. All right, still waiting for your questions, guys. If you want to know anything, just let me know, and I'll do my best. This is great. This is great entertainment. All right. Philip Steinbergen says, "Hi, Friedemann. How's life?" Life is great. Actually, something I've been thinking about quite a lot lately. So I did this video for YouTube. Why I say gefährlich, stay gefährlich at the end of every video. And it's I kind of made a quasi motivational video out of it. I've been thinking about that. Do you guys like that kind of stuff, like the motivational videos that are very topical and related to songwriting? Are you guys interested in that kind of stuff? Should I do some more of that? Because it is something I think about quite a lot, and I think writer's block and lacking motivation are just two of many problems that are related to that big realm of problems. And so I was thinking maybe I could do a little bit more of that. I know a lot of songwriters suffer depressions, and there's a bunch of bad stuff that, you know, but a bunch of big problems that keep coming up. So, yeah, are you guys interested in more of that kind of stuff, and like maybe how to deal with certain problems in the songwriting world, or yeah, personal stuff like how to, you know, work on yourself properly, how to improve yourself as an artist, in terms of like as a person, because it is something I think about quite a lot. All right, but now here we get some first proper questions. Sanvazi Raka says, you once said it's crucial to learn to use a DAW. I was just wondering when it's the best time to start learning to use one. I just think I need more time to learn about melodies and lyrics and all. Well, I'm going to preface this answer by saying that this month, I'm pretty certain it's going to come out this month, I have a course coming out on music production for complete beginners, songwriters who want to learn how to produce their own demos. So that might be interesting for you, and that might be a good starting step, because it is designed for people just like you who already can write songs, so people who are already very musical, who just want to learn how to now transfer that knowledge and those sounds that they have in their head into a DAW. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, that might be a really good place to start, I think. And as I said in one of my videos, I think it was called, I wish I knew this one thing before I started songwriting or something like that. I wish if I could go back to my former self or something like that. I forgot what the question was. The one advice I would give myself is to start producing earlier, because it is such a vital part of being a songwriter these days. And it is, while it's not entirely possible to just have a great production and without the right song, just production is just fluff, so that's not enough. But it's also not enough to just have a great song without the great production. It's just not possible anymore, so you need both. So I wish I would have started a little bit earlier. On the other hand, I'm also happy that it went the way it did, because it allowed me to really focus on my songwriting first. So there's two sides to every sword, you know, to every coin. It really depends on what you want to do, and if you want to do that kind of stuff, if you're excited about it, if you can't wait to get into music production, then I think now is the right time. Because I think that's kind of how I handle it in my life. Whenever I get excited about something, that's when I do something. If I'm not excited about it, if I don't feel like, oh, this is going to change the world, I'm going to do the most amazing thing with this the world has ever seen, you know? If I don't get that excited about it, that I just have to do it, even after trying it a little bit, and it's, you know, if obviously you have to try it a little bit first, because sometimes you don't know what you're missing if you haven't tried it first. But if I get that kind of feeling about it, then I usually just do it. And I don't really even think about, like, does this make sense financially right now or time-wise? I even do this when I have no time at all. I get obsessed with these little things, and I've always found it is hugely rewarding in the end. So I guess my answer would be, whenever you're excited about it, if you want to start doing it, then just go ahead and do it. All right, Philip says, Steenbergen. That's a Dutch name, isn't it? And I know your name. You've been on this chat before, but Philip, have we met in person? Have we like met each other in like a chat, like a Skype session or something like that? Sorry, I can't remember, but your name does ring a bell. All right. Philip says, got one for you. How do you go about rewriting lyrics? I have a bunch of old material, but I'm bad at finishing things when I run into trouble, so they end up collecting dust while there's a lot of potential in the drafts version. So the way I go about rewriting things is, if I come back to the song and I realize, wow, this is actually great, it just needs a little bit more work to be finished, then that's just what I do. But usually what happens is I return to an older session and I'm like, oh wow, I really, you know, this is all bad, but there's this one bit in it that I really, really like, or maybe these two ideas. And usually I take those and turn those into a new song, because I personally don't really like returning to older stuff. It feels like I'm living in the past and not in the future. I'd rather be writing more new stuff than to dwell in the past, if that makes sense. And that's kind of a general thing for my life. I don't really think about the past all that much. I'm really trying to live in the now, as cheesy as that sounds, and trying to look into the future. Because I feel like if you're, I have a couple of students that do this, that really like to return to their old stuff, and they dig out stuff that they wrote 15 years ago. And while that can be cool as a one-time project, and I did that as well, I took some songs that I wrote a long time ago, and I feel like, sometimes I said some things in certain songs where I'm like, you know what, I kind of changed my viewpoints on this, and I'd like to rewrite the song because I really love the song to fit my new viewpoint on things. I've done that, but those were like one-time kind of projects. Like I think I've done that in total maybe 3, 4, or 5 times or something like that. And I used to do it more than I do it now. Right now I'm really just focused on like writing new stuff. That's kind of how it is right now. And I think that's a better approach. Rather look forward and work on your actual writing rather than trying to like rehash old stuff and breathing life into something that usually probably isn't as good as the new stuff you could be writing right now. It just sounds better to you because you're so used to it, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember this time I was super high and I had this girlfriend, it was great. That song must be really good then, and it probably isn't. But you probably think it is because there's a lot of nostalgia attached to it and all of that, I guess. And that being said, like again, if you find some nice things in that old song, by all means, turn it into a new song. But I would say don't dwell on the past. Try to move forward. Constantly produce new stuff. That's the difficult part, and so you just gotta eat that frog, man. Just keep doing it. Keep doing it. Totally Overrated says, if I wanted to incorporate an 80s vibe into my music, how would you tackle that? I think 80s vibe, to me 80s are two things, and I didn't grow up in the 80s, so I can't really say for 100% sure. It's not really my, it's not really, I'm not super experienced in 80s music, but two things for me now stand out about the 80s, and that is rock guitars and, well, there's a couple of things actually. Rock guitars, certain synthesizer sounds, certain synthesizers, special synthesizers, and reverb, certain types of reverb, like, the gated snare, that kind of stuff, a lot of reverb on vocals, those kind of things. And I feel like, we're still kind of in an 80s hype right now. There's all this stuff about the 80s coming out, starting from Stranger Things to Ready Player One, and the music that goes with that, We have a lot of dance music that is very 80s inspired now, which I really like, by the way. I'm a big fan of that, because I really love those sounds. I really love like the Juno is a synthesizer that I have as well. It's a really fantastic synthesizer that is so much fun to play with. And it immediately, or like the DX7 Yamaha, like those kind of synthesizers, they just sound so fantastic, and it's so much fun to play with them. And they immediately like put you in that mood. So I guess the first stop for me would be getting probably an analog synthesizer. I know they're expensive, so an option might be, I think that would probably still be the first thing. Like if you really want to have the proper 80s sound, getting the right synthesizer is probably going to be a big deal. Getting those right sounds, like the proper analog kind of sound, I think is going to do wonders. Like I know you're writing punk music, so yeah, even for that, I just go with a synthesizer like the Juno or as I said, the DX7 or one of those kind of beasts, and preferably something that is polyphonic, so not necessarily something where you can only play bass notes. You kind of want stuff where you can't just play arpeggios, but you can also play like chords. So yeah, that's probably the easiest thing. Just get that sound right. If you have the right sound, that's everything else can follow from that. HK says, whatever you do is always helpful. Thank you very much. Have you ever used Brian Eno's oblique strategy cards? I'm thinking how your board game can inspire. I haven't. Is that public knowledge what those oblique strategy cards are? Because I have heard of those cards, and it was actually something I wanted to ask him in an interview that unfortunately fell through. But I'm really fascinated by this. Do you know what oblique strategy cards, what they do? Because I was super fascinated. I was by that idea, and I wanted to ask him what exactly they mean and what they do. But yeah, also for the board game, I'm just super fascinated by that kind of stuff. Like, how do people get inspired? So if you know anything about that HK, please let us know. I'd really be interested. Like, if you have any links, I was looking for it back in the day. I was Googling it, but I couldn't find anything. Totally Overrated says, topics like how to finish or start songs. More of the marketing videos and other types of songwriting support videos would really complement the main songwriting content of your channel. Yeah, so I've been thinking about this. And I had the idea of maybe doing some live sessions of me actually writing some tunes. And I'm mainly thinking melodies here. So maybe have like a live session. I'm just sitting there with a synthesizer and just like coming up with melodies. You guys provide some lyrics and I try to turn them into songs. Would that sound cool? Because I always think one thing that really kind of bothers me about a lot of other songwriting channels and books, and I completely understand, is the fact that a lot of people just show you the finished stuff, right? Even the songwriting channels, they don't really show you how they did it. They just say like, oh, and here's 15 hours later, I wrote all of this, and you're like, well, you know, I wanted to know how you did that. I don't really care about that little knob that you're tweaking here with your EQ. I don't really care about that. I want to know how you did all of this that you did while you were gone. And so for me, it's super beneficial always to watch people write. And not even because, just to see like what they write, but really just to like think about like, okay, so here's how he's doing that. And why is that? Why is he doing this? Why is he playing this now instead of this? Would I have done the same? Try to get into their mind and try to really understand how that person is working and thinking. Would that be something that's interesting to you guys as well? Or would it be just like me doing a solo concert for myself pretty much? I don't know. So it's something that I definitely would have liked to see when I was a beginner. I don't know. How about you guys? Is that something, you know, that goes for other people as well? Totally Overrated says, I do think that sounds cool. Until I got together with you and saw the whole process, it didn't fit together. Very nice to hear. Yeah, that's exactly the thing that I was worried about. Because I think that's the challenge, right? Like, you know, with the board game, I tried to like get into the brains of board game designers. And there's a lot of board gaming, you know, design channels and stuff. And everyone's talking about it and everyone's talking about these principles, but no one's actually showing you how they do it. And that is what really frustrates me. There's always like a cut, and then it's 15 hours later, and they have the great idea, right? And I'd rather watch 15 hours of someone just like, you know, mashing their head in and trying to figure out how to do this thing, because I want to see this process. I want to understand like, how did he get from this really silly idea to this really great production? That's what I want to see. That's what I'm really interested in. And yeah, so that's kind of what I was thinking. All right. Philip, I'm going to get back to you in just a second, because that is a good question. Ahmed says, Ahmed Galal, from your opinion, what level of guitar does a singer need to have to play the guitar while singing? Beginner or intermediate or advanced? It all depends, really. Unfortunately, that's the silly answer, but it really all depends. If you just want to play like super simple, you know, Nirvana-esque kind of riffs, then you really don't have to be any better than a beginner player, because Kurt Cobain wasn't a great guitarist. He really wasn't. If it's just like playing some power chords, easiest thing in the world, really. Kurt Cobain was really a kind of a shit guitarist. But you know, if you want to play something like Muse, that's a little bit more challenging. You know, for that you need a little bit more experience. And especially today, I feel like a lot of the sounds today, like rock guitar sounds today, are so polished that typically, if you want to get into the music scene today for that really polished rock kind of sound, then the timing has to be really spot on, and that is kind of one of the most difficult things to learn as a guitarist, to really understand timing and to be able to play on time to the click, you know, so that everything, you know, sounds like one guitar. When you're doubling a guitar 4 times, it still sounds like one fat guitar instead of 4 slightly off guitars, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it really depends if you want to record yourself or if it's just like to sing to your friends while sitting around a bonfire or something. Then obviously, you know, you don't have to be a great guitarist for that. And you know, the obvious answer also is like, the better you are, the better, obviously, right? I think as a songwriter, if you're really talking strictly about songwriting, you don't have to be a great guitarist. I'm not a great pianist, not at all. I'm a terrible pianist, actually. use it all the time to write songs, and I find it very inspiring because it's such a different layout than on the guitar, and it just inspires me to write different things than I would ever write on guitar. So I'm a big fan of doing something like that. But I do think you need, or you should have, one instrument that you can play a little bit better than all the other ones, and it should be a harmony instrument, so guitar or piano are probably best. Just so you really have gotten into how a musician thinks. And I've always found that really beneficial when I'm writing my songs, to like understand how a musician thinks, because it allows me to write stuff that a musician would actually want to play. If that makes sense. All right, so Philip, sorry if I'm pushing the topic, but the rewriting part of the question could also relate to something you wrote a month ago, right? Yeah, of course. And rewriting lyrics is a big deal. And what was your initial question again? Like, how do you go about how do you go about rewriting lyrics, right? Well, for me, it's I finish lyrics fairly quickly. What I'm mainly looking for is the sounds. So I write all my stuff with BS lyrics, or temp lyrics, if you want to call it that. I like to call it bullshit lyrics because it sounds like bullshit. I'm just singing along to like whatever I'm playing on the piano or on the guitar, kind of coming up with a melody as I go. And if usually what happens is they'll hit some vowels that I like ooh, the E sounds really nice here, or the O or the I or the A kind of sounded really nice in this position. And so those kind of stay where they are, and then I kind of puzzle the lyrics around that. And the rewriting for me really comes in when it comes to finding the exact order of the sentence that I'm building, right? So like usually it has to do with flow, more so than with content. Obviously the content has to be good, especially like in the chorus line. Like there needs to be, like in those power positions that I mentioned, the addiction formula, there's certain lines in your song that need to be really excellent in terms of content and melody. But usually it's like I just shoot for good enough. Like that lyric is fine, just move on, right? Next lyric, next line. Yeah, the most of my rewriting really goes into flow and pronunciation, making sure that there's a nice rhythm to the consonants, you know. Yeah, that always makes a big difference, I find. Like if you can place the consonants in the right spots, it just usually sounds better. Like those alliterations and stuff like that, usually it makes a big difference for me. All right. Dutch indeed. Don't think we've met. All right, cool. I just probably saw your name on the live chat. Okay. Totally Overrated says, I love seeing other people's writing processes. Cool. I watched someone for 4 hours last night write a song on Twitch. It was fascinating and boring at the same time. That's kind of how it is, isn't it? HK says, there are people that say finish every song you write because you are constantly learning and improving, even subliminally. Hey Roderick, how's it going? HK, I agree to a certain extent. I think, and this is one of the weirdest things about learning any skill, I think, is that what you have, like what's the best thing for you to do is really dependent on where you are in your career. If you're just starting out, I would say yes to every project, finish every song you start, and work really hard, work on songs for a long time. Like all that stuff is totally true if you're a beginner of songwriting. But if you've already written a lot of songs, and also think about everything that you're doing, like really overthink things. There is no overthinking in the beginning of songwriting. Really get into it, really understand it. And that's how I used to work for almost 10 years. And then I made a transition, and I think that came when I went to work with a professional producer, and I really got to watch him work, and I realized, oh, you know what? I don't have to do it like that. I can actually write music very quickly. And that's when I realized that, hey, actually I can sometimes trust myself, because usually what comes out is pretty good, because I've been doing this for years. You know, I've put in my 10,000 hours for sure. So I have to learn, at some point you learn to trust yourself and to trust your instincts and to just roll with it a little bit more. And you don't overthink stuff anymore. And you typically, I can write a song now in a couple of hours. Easy. If I have a good idea, if I have something that inspires me, I can write a demo for a song in maybe like 2 or 3 hours or something like that, which is maybe something that we could do in a live chat. in another live video here, if you guys are interested. So yeah, so it's funny how things really change. It's really different when you're a beginner and when you have done this for a really long time. So I wouldn't say, like, I don't finish every song I start. I mean, obviously, if I have a deadline or something, I might be more. I'm leaning probably towards finishing the songs that I start, just because I don't have the time to really start a new project. Although I have sometimes found that, you know, sometimes I'm working on a project and it's just not working. It's like, I don't get it. It's just not doing the thing I wanted to do. And then just like playing around on guitar, I'm like, you know what? That's a great lick. And I just like get so inspired by it that I can like churn out a tune in like an hour or so if I have a really tight deadline. So sometimes it has been beneficial to really abandon a project and just start something new if I find something that is more inspiring to me. Megan Amokazi says, where can we hear your music? I think the easiest way would probably to go to my website, Friedemann. Is it .de or .com? I think it's .de. Or is it .com? Let me see. I don't even know myself anymore because I haven't updated that website in so long. It's .de, I think. Yeah, Friedemann.de. DE stands for Deutsch, German. And there you find on the front page, which looks horrible. I still have dreadlocks on that picture, so that's hilarious. On the front page, you will find my demo reel, which is also very old already, and then a video like that I made the music for, and then making off is there also. If you click on music at the top, oh, that's exactly that. I also have a SoundCloud page, which is called Full Stop Studios, I think, or also Friedemann Fit Eisen. I'm not sure. Like, search for one or the other. So Full Stop is a full dash stop, and then studios. Full Stop Studios. That was like the name of my studio back in the day when I still lived in the Netherlands. And yeah, there's a bunch of songs there. They're all fairly old, since that was just like what I wrote when I was in conservatory. But yeah. Wave Coming Music says, you broke down the way The Weeknd constructs a melody, but how would you describe his writing style? By writing style, do you mean the music or the lyrics? And if you say both, I'm gonna kill you because there's so much to talk about here. And also, I must say, like, I haven't listened to a lot of Weeknd lately. Also, like, a lot of the music that is written for him. I think, like, his producers probably do a lot of the work. I'm sure he checks it off or said like, no, this is not good enough, or I want something different, or can we change this, or can we change that, for sure. But I don't think he's very involved in the music writing process. I think he's mostly a singer and not too much of a musician as well. So I'm not sure. A lot of what I'm hearing from The Weeknd is just like that. Like, the sound is fairly typical. It's just his vocal sound that is really interesting, and I think his lyrics as well, like mixing these very sexual, very dark kind of themes with that really pretty kind of R&B voice. I think that's kind of what made him special. But in terms of the music, it's fairly standard trap music mixed with some hip hop and that kind of stuff, I think. Yeah. So the lyrics. Oh, you're talking about the lyrics in particular. Yeah, I think the lyrics are really. What really makes the lyrics special to me is really like mixing that heavy sexual or religious content or talking about drugs with that really very warm, very sweet, very soft kind of voice. I think that juxtaposition is really what makes The Weeknd so interesting. And it's funny because I read an interview with one of his producers back in the day, back when he was still living in Toronto, that said he had kind of found The Weeknd able Tesfaye, that's what his name is pronounced, I think. He had found him in this little R&B band, and they were just singing like very kind of cliched, very sweet kind of R&B songs. And that producer had the idea of like adding like that sexual hardcore kind of edge to it. Especially if you listen to some early Weeknd style stuff, is pretty heavy. Like, it is very, very sexual, and there's some really dark themes coming out. Not that much anymore, since he's become a little bit more commercialized now. Although I think he's kind of like returning to that more underground style now. But like that first stuff, the first couple of like things that he put out were partly pretty heavy in terms of like the content. So yeah. Roderick says, what's your favorite concept album? I would say it's either 10,000 Days by Tool or 13th Step by Perfect Circle. Both bands led by Maynard James Keenan. I'm just a big Maynard James Keenan fan, especially in terms of lyrics. I think his lyrics are just some of the best, and those are just two very impressive albums. I think especially 10,000 Days is just a really impressive album. There's so much interesting stuff on there. 13th Step, it's like a hit and miss kind of thing for me. I must say, like, I maybe dislike 60% of the songs, but the 30% that are there are just so good. Or like, not in the songs, but like in general, like the music. There's always, especially the verses, kind of fall dead for me. I'm never really a big fan of the verses of Perfect Circle, but usually the choruses is where really like what I really like about those songs. So I would say probably 10,000 Days is my favorite concept album. I mean, it's a big work. You know, there's so much stuff on there. It's a really long album. Some of the songs are like 15 minutes or something crazy. But I forgot someone's question here. Julietas Ibanez is probably how it's pronounced. Ibanez says, how do you choose a producer to work with, and how do you recognize their work in contrast with mixing engineer or the artist itself? How do you recognize their work? How do you recognize their work? What do you mean by recognize, Julieta, specifically? How do you recognize their work? How do you choose a producer to work with? Well, I can answer how do you choose a producer to work with first, maybe, and you can maybe clarify what you mean by how do you recognize their work in contrast with mixing engineer or the artist itself. Recognize, do you mean like how do you credit them, or what's the idea? Like financially, or what's the idea? How do you choose a producer to work with? It really depends. So something I learned the hard way, and this took me a very long time to learn, is that you have to pick the producer that understands your sound. That's the most important thing, and that is way more important than just picking someone who's really good at what they do. Because there's a lot of really great producers out there, but there's very few that understand what you want to do and want to do the same thing as you want to do. Unless your style is super common, everyone kind of does that thing. But I've always had troubles finding a producer because I didn't understand that. I thought like nobody understands my style, or I always got into fights with producers. Not like mean fights or anything, but I was never really happy, never really satisfied with the productions I got from my songs, because I always felt like it didn't understand certain emotions that I was trying to get across in my music. And those were fantastic producers. That's why I wanted to work with them, because I heard their stuff and I was like, wow, this is incredible. It sounds so great. And typically what the problem was that I heard the song and I was like, that song is amazing. It just wasn't what I wanted to do. But I thought like, oh, since I love that music, he must really understand all the music that I love as well. And that's just not the case. So that's why I think the biggest thing that you should look out for is really someone who understands what you're doing. And sometimes it's even worth going with someone who's a little bit less experienced, and maybe the two of you can help each other, you know. And I know that's a lot more work, and a lot people like to hear like, oh yeah, there's this one producer who can do all of that for you. He's got the most amazing sound, and he's not expensive. A lot of people would rather pay a lot of money and do it once, and like hope that gets a big success, but it's just not how it works. I think it's much wiser to find someone that you really trust and that you can really work with, and do it like that, or do it all yourself. All right, Julieta says, if I like someone's sound, how do I know if it was the work of the producer or the mixing engineer? Typically the producer, I would say. The mixing engineer has a more technical job. The producer is usually the person who has the creative part of the work. The producer is the person who picks the sounds. He's the person who arranges the song, typically, who talks through the song with the musicians. Whereas the mixing engineer is usually more about the tidbits, like EQing certain things, making sure that the compression is right and everything, which is a very important job as well, and also a creative job. But to most people who hear the difference between what a producer does to a band and what a mixing engineer does to a band, I would say most people would say like, yeah, the producer has a more important role. Not trying to negate that mixing engineers are important. They are. And there's like recording engineers, which you forgot, which are also very, very important. They can really determine how you sound you know, the way you put down a microphone and which microphone you put in front of what performer is also a big deal in terms of what the sound will be. But I would say the producer is probably the biggest guy in the room when it comes to creativity, apart from the band. And then there's some bands that really rely on the producer, where the producer is everything, and the band almost doesn't matter anymore. There's some big bands, I won't name names right now because it's going to seem derogatory. It's not meant that way. There's a lot of bands that really rely on the producers to deliver, you know, the hits, and they don't really have to do much anymore, except like deliver, like provide their good name. Anyways. Roderick says, also, what are your thoughts on song arrangement on an album? Do you mean which songs come first, which songs come second, whatever, where to play songs, and which order on the album? Is that what you mean, Roderick? Kai says, have you watched Rick Beato's multi-track breakdown of Max Martin's production on Ariana Grande's Into You? Mostly want to know your thoughts on the track. I haven't seen that, actually. I'm watching a lot of Rick Beato's stuff. He's a really good guy, I think, and like, I don't know personally, but I think he's putting out some really great videos, and he knows a lot of stuff, that's for sure. So I'm a big fan of Into You. I think Ariana Grande had that phase where she put out just one great song after another, and Into You is a fantastic one at that. I really love Into You. It's probably I would say it's almost my favorite song of hers. But she did this other one. What was that one called again? And it's just been a while since I've listened to her, because my girlfriend listens to her all the time, and she hasn't been listening to her for a while now. Love Me Harder is a good one, definitely. What's that one? I'm trying to figure out what it is. Huh, man, I must have skipped right past it. I don't know which one it was again. Maybe I forgot the title. Yeah. Love Me Harder? I think it's Love Me Harder. It must be. Yeah. Yeah, I love that song. Anyways. Is your mic on cardioid mode, says Anderson the Fourth. I hear a chorus-like effect on your voice. That is strange. It should be on cardioid. It is on cardioid. Let me see if did I mess things up here? No, it's definitely coming through the microphone though. I don't know what the chorus is coming from. Might be something that OBS is doing. Maybe I hope it's only when it's live, and maybe this is going to be different when this whole thing is going to be uploaded. Oh, Julieta says, if I like someone's sound. Oh yeah, that's what we already answered that. Philip says, do you have a system, digital or analog, for keeping track of your sketches, lyric ideas, riffs, progressions, and so on? Or are you like me, everything scattered everywhere? Do I scatter? I don't think so. I used to, like, I had it like written down in all sorts of like notebooks and shit. I don't have that anymore. I have everything on my phone now. Like, I have a whole library of just like, I can show you what it looks like actually. So I use the voice recorder of the Android phone that I have, and this just has like, can you see it like this? Yeah, perfect. This is just like tons and tons of like audio examples of just me like singing into the microphone, or sometimes playing guitar if I have a riff, or you know, it could be anything. Even when I'm writing, I record into this thing so I don't forget my melodies. One of the things that is fairly odd about my writing process is that my vocals come in pretty late generally into my productions. A lot of producers like to start with their vocals and then build the track around that. I'm kind of the other way. I like to keep my voice out of the production for as long as I can, because I believe that when you record the voice, it's much harder to change it because you get so used to the vocal melody. Whereas if you don't record it, you just record it into your phone. I don't listen to that for a really long time, and I just sing what I feel sounds right to my production. And after a while, I'll listen to this and be like, oh, you know what? I like the older version better, or I like the newer version better. And already I've done a little bit of pre-selection of which vocal melody is the best. It's a little trick that I personally use. But so to come back to your question, yeah, I have everything in one place. HK says, what do you enjoy most about honing your board game? It must be fun. it was a lot of work. It was very, very difficult and very cerebral work. Like I had headaches for weeks trying to design this thing, and now it's coming together, and that's the best feeling. Just like when you finally have something that really clicks and that makes sense, that's the best feeling. It's so much fun, and now I can't wait to show it to people. Like I'm playtesting this with a lot of people this week and next week, and for the next year probably. So I'm super excited about that, about seeing how people react to it, and now fine-tuning it, because now I have a base, something that I can work with. The hardest part was just to come up with that base, to really find a game mechanic that is interesting and challenging, and that also reflects the music industry, which was really, really important to me. I wanted to create something that really encapsulates the spirit of the music industry and has all the things that are important to us as musicians. And so in the game, you can write songs, you can play tours, you can improve yourself, like working on yourself, learn stuff. You have to book gigs, you have to market yourself. There's networking in the game, all of that, and I think that works really well in the game, and I'm really happy with how that turned out. I'm not saying this is the final version yet. I'm sure there's going to be a couple of revisions of this, but this is version 9, and I'm at version 9.1 right now, actually. And I feel like it's probably going to get version 9.7 or something like that. It's probably going to be the final one. So I finally have a good ground version, so to say. And now it's just like, iterations of that same thing to make it better and better. Paul Fish says, I'd love to see you and Rick do a collaboration. Yeah, I love that as well. If he's up for it, I'm totally down with that as well. Isn't that the funniest? I was talking about that with another student, actually. If he's up for it, I'm down. I like that. I think that would be a cool line in the lyric somewhere, from my perspective at least, as a silly German. Oh, Roderick says, yes, arrangement as far as which song comes first, second, etc. There is a couple of things. This was actually, I actually wrote a couple of chapters on that for the addiction formula, which I all cut because they didn't fit the book. It didn't make sense in that book. I wrote a lot about album structure, actually, and how the addiction formula can also be applied to that. It was a long chapter. There's a lot to talk about here. But suffice it to say, you want to start strong, obviously. So your first song should be your most powerful song. So let's say you're a rock band, right? First song should be really powerful. Second song should be your best song. That's usually the first single that you release as well. And the first song shouldn't be your single, because you want people to listen to that first song if they've already heard your singles and be like, wow, that's so cool, I gotta buy that album now. And then the second song comes on, they're like, oh yeah, I love that song, that's the coolest song ever, and they just get like, get down with that. So that's the first two songs. Song number 3, typically a rock song as well, like a lot of power. And then tracks 4, 5, and 6 typically are show a different side of the band a little bit. And typically the worst song of the album is typically track 5 or 6. It's one of those two. And then number 7 is going to be your next single. And track 8, I would recommend to make that a great track as well. Although I see a lot of albums that have not so great track 8. But I would recommend, since people like, if they like your song, if they already know the single, they're going to jump to track number 7, to that second single that you released. And they're going to listen to that song, and whatever comes after, they might also listen to that. So if that song isn't great, they might turn off the album altogether. So track 7 and 8. Track 7 is your second single typically. Track 8 is going to be another good song. And then whatever you do with 8, 9, 10 is usually not that important. And then 11 and 12. So if this is a 12-track album, we're talking about 12-track albums here. Typically, tracks number 11 and 12 are, so that's your big finale, right? So typically what people do is they'll have a kind of like anthemic, big, beautiful, sad, nostalgic kind of song for track number 11, and then another rock song for number 12, just to say like, but we're not gone yet. Like, here's another really cool song to finish it all off. Or it's the other way around. It's one of those two typically. Also, what I see a lot is that we have 2 ballads at the end of the album. So track number 11 would be sort of the ballads, so the calmer side of the band, and then track number 12 is like the anthemic big one, or the other way around. Both ways work. But that's typically how I've always handled it with advising bands on structuring their albums. Anderson IV says, what do you think artists with cult fan bases do differently from regular fan bases? Kind of what I've been talking about in the artist series. I think they're really clear with their image. They're really clear with who their audience is, and so their audience feels like they belong to one group. You know, there's certainly bands out there that just like, oh yeah, if you like rock, you're gonna like this band. You know, but then there's bands like, say, Nickelback. No, not to diss on Nickelback. Everyone likes to diss on Nickelback. I saw them live and I thought they were actually fantastic. Not so much maybe the music for me personally, but man, they were great performers, and it was seriously. I didn't love the music, but it was the best gig that I've ever seen, just in terms of the fun the performers had on stage, and I really commend them for that. It was absolutely incredible to see. But say Nickelback, I don't think has a very clear, defined audience. It's just like, you know, it's kind of rock, it's a little pop, but it's not like their fans can feel like they belong to the same tribe. Whereas such a band such as 21 Pilots has a very clear, defined audience. So there's a lot of people that love 21 Pilots, and there's even more people that hate 21 Pilots, and everyone likes to diss on 21 Pilots, and that's typically a good sign. So being alright with people hating on you is a big, big part of it. And I have some haters as well on my channel. Like, I get some really mean comments as well on YouTube. That's a good thing. I have to remind myself of that sometimes. But it's a good thing to have haters, because it means that you're doing really something right for some other people. If it's only haters, that's another question. But I don't only have haters. I have you guys. Thank you guys so much. You know, I have that to rely on. But if it was only haters, it would be a different question. But if you have a few haters, that's a really good thing. Some people that really hate what you're doing. Justin Bieber is another example, you know, who's gotten more commercialized now. A lot of older people like Justin Bieber now. But back in the day when he did Hey Baby or whatever that song was called, he was very, very niche. You know, he was really meant for a very targeted, specific audience. And it's this ridiculous thing that a lot of older men and like teenagers who the music really wasn't meant for went to those videos and just started hating in the comments, which is ridiculous. It's like walking into a public building and seeing like a poster that says free guitar lessons, and you go like, but I don't want fucking free guitar lessons. I hate free guitar lessons, which is a joke from Ricky Gervais. And it's so true, you know. Like, you don't have to watch it. It wasn't made for you. So fuck off and watch another video instead. So that's kind of how you know if you have the right following, if you have some people that really hate you and some people that really love you. If you're doing something that pans your critics, that's usually a good sign. Thoughts on Master Writer, says Thomas Wolfe. I've used it for a brief amount of time. I know some professionals who work with it. I don't use it. I just don't think for me, it's not practical, because I just like to be quick with stuff. And they probably have an app by now. I never used an app. So for me, it was just like always quick to just record to my phone or write it in a notebook or something like that. And I just thought it was just too much. Like, when I opened up Master Writer, it was just too many windows. It was just overwhelming, you know. And when I want to write, I just want something super simple, because I just want to focus on the writing. And I'm a much bigger fan of OmniFocus. Is that what it's called? OmniFocus? Which, yeah, I think that's what it's called. Let me Google that for you guys. OmniFocus, which is a very simple software. I think that it's just a beautiful background, if that's the one that I mean. Oh no, that's a task management app that I also used for a while. Geez, what was that called? There's a writing software that is basically just a pretty background. You can toggle everything off. There's nothing. It's just the page, and you can just write on it. And that was the most inspiring one to me. And there's software like, oh gosh, I forgot the name. It's been so long since I used it. But there is software, for example, that if you don't keep writing, this is a great one. If you don't keep writing, it's going to delete everything you've written so far, and you can't bring it back. And then, while that sounds horrible, it really forces you to write. And that is a great thing as a songwriter, because you learn to really trust your instincts and to just write, not to overthink things. So if that is one of your issues, if you have writer's block, that's one of the first things I would recommend, is that software. But other than that, I don't really trust in third-party writing software. I haven't found one yet where it was like, yes, this is it. This gets how songwriting works. It just always feel, and they're all usually very ugly, and I hate ugly software. I just want to feel, I don't know, it's part of it, right? Like the UI, if the UI is ugly, it just really is a big turnoff for me. Fetty Music says, do you have any other creative passions beside music? Any other art form you like to cultivate in your free time? Well, yeah, I mean, as I said, with the board game, that's a big part of it. I love board games, and designing them I think is really, really fun. I also paint. What else did I do? I used to do card magic for a really long time, and I invented effects as well. That was a lot of fun, and I learned so much from that, especially for body language and that kind of stuff. I was a really big fan of that. What else? You know, I sometimes shoot a music video here or there. That's fun. You know, editing and all that stuff for the artist series can sometimes be really fun. Photoshop, you know, I do all my artwork as well for Holistic Songwriting, like all the thumbnails, I make them. I think that's a lot of fun. I really enjoy that kind of stuff. Yeah, I really love working in Photoshop. I find running Holistic Songwriting, like the marketing side of it, also a very creative endeavor, because you have to like find interesting and cool ways to draw people in. And I don't see it as like selling my stuff. It's just making, like showing people what my products can do in a really fun, entertaining, cool way, so that people don't say like, ah, this is just like trying to sell me something. I don't want that, you know. I want people to get excited about my marketing. Also because it translates to sales, but also just because it's so much more fun, and I don't want to be that guy that, like, you know, foot in the door kind of marketer. So like, you buy this, buy this, buy this. Why haven't you bought this yet? So yeah. Anything else? Maybe there's, I'm sure there's more, and I keep forgetting some. I always forget stuff like that. Because I have that thing for myself that whenever I want to do something, whenever I get excited about something that is creative, I just do it. And I really don't think about what comes out of it. And I don't think in terms of, I'm not thinking about time management or financial things. I just go right to it, because what I've really learned in my lifetime is that doing that kind of stuff really gets your brain to work in those ways, and it becomes much easier to be creative. And if you're excited about things, typically it means that you're happy as well. And I feel like that's also important if you want to help people, that you feel great about yourself. Because I find always it's, and you know, I'm doing this holistic songwriting to help you guys as well, of course. And I always found that it's really difficult to help others if you aren't checked out with yourself. Like if you have personal problems, then it's going to be really difficult to help others. And not saying I never have personal problems, but I had some big issues when I was a teenager that I went through and that I survived, and that have made me stronger. It's also such a cliche. As a lyricist, I would never write that, but in this case, it's the truth, unfortunately. Or fortunately, I should say. And yeah, I feel like now I'm in the position where I feel comfortable helping others. Whereas there's a lot of people who aren't in that position, who want to help others, and typically it backfires on them because they're giving too much away without keeping anything back from themselves. So I don't know, I'm really digressing here. Sorry. Yeah, but that's kind of the other stuff that I do in my free time. And typically right now it's really a lot of designing the board game. And I love the graphic design of it, even though it's super ugly right now. It's just a prototype, but I'm so loving that. It's so much fun. All right, I should go through these last couple of questions a little bit quicker. Let's see. Kai Ellis says, I've got a friend who's a killer singer and who wants to write together, but they don't know anything about songwriting, and it kind of paralyzes their creativity when we try to collaborate. Advice? Yeah, just write the songs for him. If he's a great singer, he can't write songs, then just write the songs for him and tell him, like, this is what you're supposed to sing. And if you cannot do that, then learn it together, the two of you, and just like try out a couple of things until you have something. And just work through it, you know, like you have to get comfortable with each other. That's a really big part of it. Sing in front of him, even if you have a shitty voice, sing in front of him. Man, that is so important, so that he feels at ease and he can start singing as well. And especially, like, the shittier your voice is, the easier it's going to be for him to, like, let go and to actually start singing. So, yeah, if he doesn't come up with anything, then it's your turn, you know. You take control, man. Fetty Music says, I have a couple of songs with lyrics that fit but are not amazing. Have you ever erased some lyrics and started from scratch? Better to have a finished song with okay lyrics or work on it much longer? I used to back in the day, as I said at the beginning of like some time during this video. I used to do that. I used to always finish my songs and used to like really work on them until I thought they were perfect. Now I don't do that so much anymore. So now I'm much quicker to say like, okay, this is good enough, and I just trust my instincts a lot more. But that is really that's a certain confidence that I have in myself now. And I'm fine if someone says like, "Oh, that lyric was shit." I'm fine with that. Like, I can live with that now because I say, "Yeah, but that was not the focus of what I was trying to do." So no, I don't do that anymore. I wouldn't like completely erase a lyric and start from scratch. I don't think I've ever done that. I used to do that like back in the day, as I said, but not lately. Like in the last 5-7 years or so, I haven't done that. I don't think. Louis Zapiola says, "Hi, I love your videos. Thank you very much. Should I use DistroKid? Oh, I feel like I shouldn't use it for me demos. Does it have to be super polished to upload it there?" What's DistroKid again? It does ring a bell. DistroKid. Kid or kit? What's it? DistroKid. Oh yeah, it's already here. It's already in my chronic. What's it called? Yeah, chronic. Oh yeah, right. Oh, I remember now. Okay, so it's this way of getting your music onto like all the proper platforms like Spotify and iTunes, etc. It doesn't have to be super polished to upload it. I think could be that iTunes has a certain policy that they review your stuff before they upload it, but I think it should sound right to you. It doesn't have to necessarily be super polished, but I just think if you publish something, then you should be proud of it. You know, if you're not proud of it, if you don't think it's great, then I wouldn't publish it. You can still publish it on SoundCloud and songwriting forums and stuff, but I wouldn't publish anything that I'm not really proud of, because I also know that there can be, oh man, this is going to really demotivate some people here. So maybe if you're easily demotivated, don't listen to this. I just know that if you release something and you're not really proud of it, if you get some bad comments, which will probably happen, it can be really demotivating, and you'll probably never write a song again. So that sounds so horrible, but yeah, make sure what you release is good and that you're proud of it, and that if someone says this is shit, that you can say like, well, fine, I can live with that. This person thinks it's shit. I really love it. I really like what I've written. And yeah, that's a certain confidence again that you need to really, like, if you want to step up to the big league, I think. Otherwise, it's going to be really, really difficult. But yeah, so yeah, I wouldn't use it for demos probably. Like, it should be a finished production, like something that you're really proud of. All right. Shuck says, "Hey, how are you, man? I'm good, thank you very much. Do you ever have times where you think of a line that has to be there and then build upon that and work backwards, kind of? How to not end up forcing lyrics in these cases?" What do you mean work backwards? Think of a line like you mean a lyrical line or a melodic line. I've done both. So yeah, that works totally. Like I often work backwards. I have an idea and then I see, like, I try to make that work within the context of the song. So yeah, as I said, I'm probably going to do some videos in the future where I show my actual writing process. It's just a live stream of me writing some stuff. So then you guys can see it firsthand. Roderick says, "Gotta go. See you next time, folks." Take care, Roderick. Thomas says, "What's your process like for writing a song in one day/session?" I mean, I immediately record everything. I immediately go into the DAW and everything is immediately produced. So I don't hesitate with that kind of stuff. And I usually jump right into my phone with all of my audio files. So I'll grab one that inspires me and then I'll just keep going with that. And again, it's all about inspiration, man. That's really so important. And that's gotten more and more important the longer I've been doing this. Is if I have an audio file that inspires me where I'm listening to it, like, oh yeah, cool, I already know what to do. I can hear the guitars, I can hear the drums. When you have that, like at this point where I'm at right now, that's what really like gets me going. And then it's super easy and super quick to like write a song for me, because I'm just like following orders that are like everything that's already in my head. I'm just following that essentially. But it wasn't always like that. So in the beginning, it's just a lot of work. In the beginning, you just have to learn to like hear things when you were hearing a demo or like just you're singing on your cell phone. You have to learn to hear those drums and the bass lick or whatever. Oh, Kai says, oh, the issue I ran into with this singer was that I said, okay, here are some ideas. Do you like any of these? But their response was, I feel like you're writing this without me. Ah, yeah, I've been there before, man. That's a shitty position to be in. Yeah. I know what that feels like. Ah, that's a shitty position to be in. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that. I never got past that as well. I just found people that I can work with really well. And I have some really good writers now that I work with where I'm just super happy because they know what they're doing, I know what I'm doing, and we both click. And that's the three things that are important in any good writing relationship. And if one of those three things isn't there, then it's probably not going to work out. So you probably should find someone else, or say, you know what, maybe this whole writing thing isn't working out, but I just really would love to use your voice on some of my own tracks. Would that be all right with you? And if you approach it like that, maybe that will be fine. Maybe you produce one track for them. Maybe they have an idea for a song, and you can produce it for them. Like if you can do something quickly, maybe do that. But yeah, maybe offer them that and say like, you know what, I'm going to be the driving force behind this. I have some songs that I would like you to sing on. If you change the relationship a little bit, maybe that can work. I don't know. It depends on the person, really. But yeah, I feel like you're writing this without me is like, oh man, that's a shitty position to be in. Especially if it's like, it comes from a really unconfident place. Like if it's, yeah, I don't want to get too deeply into this, but yeah, try to get out of it as quickly as possible, I would say. Although in the beginning, again, things are different. Say yes to every project in the beginning. I would say so, yes. Work with people as much as you can. Anyways. Okay. And that's it, guys. I think, is there any more? Sorry, second question. I was on stopping infection. Okay. I think, guys, we have to... Kai Ellis says... Oh, no good answer to my question? Unsubscribed. Nah, thank you for the empathy, man. Glad to know it's normal for songwriters to encounter this issue. Yeah, man. I mean, it's still down to relationships. If you're writing with someone, then the relationship has to work as well, you know. And you have to believe in each other and trust each other. And that's something I really had to learn. Because I love working in my own little world, and I love creating worlds by myself. You know, that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in machines. And I sometimes have issues when it comes to working with other people. And so that's something I really had to learn in the beginning. And I think I learned it because I was writing with someone that I really respected and I loved their music. And when they said something, my first instinct was to say, no, that's completely wrong. It's obviously wrong what they're doing. And they said like, okay, sure, let's try it. And I tried it, and I was surprising myself. I was like, wow, this does actually work. That's so cool. And that was the beginning of me working with other people and really understanding how co-writing works, is really trusting the other person also. But you need that respect for the other person, otherwise it's going to be really, really difficult. Besides that, it's sometimes possible to have someone who doesn't have that great ideas, and then if you're really good, and I don't think I would be as good to do that, but good enough to do that kind of thing, I don't know, it would be something I'd have to try. But if you can take their kind of shitty ideas and turn them into something that is really good by blending it together with your good stuff, then maybe you could have a really working relationship with this singer. So hopefully that is a better answer. And you won't unsubscribe. No, please stay. I need every subscriber I could get. All right. Guys, thank you so much for watching. And I will see you guys on Wednesday again. Wednesday, Saturday, and then here, Monday. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Take care. Bye-bye.